Okay, so here's the deal. You can use synthetic division anytime the thing that you're dividing by is a first degree polynomial. Anytime it's a first degree polynomial. Now, last year, your teachers may have told you you can't do it if there's a coefficient in front of the x, or they may have directed you to use long division instead. But what I'm going to show you today is that you can use synthetic division even with a coefficient here. Okay, it's just a little bit quirky, and there's a little bit something that you need to know in order to do this. So let me introduce this to you now. You guys all have this problem written down? Okay. So here's the deal. When we find the number that goes in the little box here for our synthetic division, you know, the number that goes in the little corner box here, the way that we do that is we find the zero of the thing you're dividing by. So you set it equal to 0 and solve it. So if you had 3x minus 4 equal to 0, you would get x equals what? 4/3. So you would put 4/3 in that spot right there. All right. But if that's all you do and you do the synthetic division without knowing this one little extra step, you're going to get the wrong answer. Okay, so let me show you how this is actually working. Synthetic division, this whole process where you add down and you always multiply by this other thing. That process only works if, can you put that phone away, please? Thank you. Oh, that's a calculator, my bad. This is only going to actually work for us if the thing that we're dividing by is in the format of x plus or minus something. So it doesn't work if it's in this format here. But here's the deal. We can trick it. Okay, so we can make this look something like this. How are we going to get this 3 off of it? We're gonna factor this 3 out. So instead of dividing by 3x minus 4, we're going to divide by 3 times x minus 4/3. Isn't that the same thing that we had to begin with? Now, when we do the synthetic division is going to take care of dividing this piece for us. However, at the end, we're going to have to come back and remember that we're not just dividing by that, but we're also dividing by a 3. Okay? So if there's a coefficient, we got to factor the coefficient out, and then we got to come back and take care of that coefficient at the end. So let's go ahead and do the synthetic division. So keep in mind, we're not dividing by 3x minus 4. We're dividing by x minus 4/3, which is not what we wanted to divide by, but that's okay. We'll do that separately, and then we'll come back and take care of the 3 afterwards. So my coefficients are still 3, 2, -20, 31, and -20. And we'll follow our synthetic division algorithm. And again, folks, we're not going to spend class time going over that. My assumption is you know it, but see me if you need a refresher on it. So adding straight down gets us 3. Hey, do you guys know the cheat code for multiplying by a fraction? There's two operations you're actually doing. When you multiply by 4/3, you're doing 2 things. You're multiplying by 4 and dividing by 3. But did you know you can do that in any order you want to? It's often much easier to do the division by 3 first and then multiply by 4 afterwards. So that's how I usually do it. So I got 3 divided by 3 is 1 times 4 is 4. 2 plus 4 is 6. What's 6 times 4/3? We'll divide by the 3 first and then multiply by the 4 and you'll get your answer. That would be 8. -20 plus 8 is -12. Divide by 3, multiply by 4. -16. 31 minus 16 is 15. Divided by 3 is 5. Multiplied by 4 is 20. And we get a 0 remainder. All right. So we're going to write down our answer now, but I need you guys to keep something in mind. We just divided by x minus 4/3. We have not yet divided by the 3. So let's just take all of these coefficients and divide them by 3 to come up with our final answer. So our actual coefficients are going to be 1, 2, -4, and 5. So that would be 1x to the 3rd plus 2x squared minus 4x plus 5. All right. You guys have your notebooks out? We're actually going to do the first problem in our assignment today. I've been doing this kind of backwards because this is where this came up at the end of class last period. Let me get to the right page. And I don't know if it's exactly the first one, but we're going to do number 11. This is a problem from tonight's assignment. So you'll want to write this down. Okay. So this is number 11. So are you guys on the page you're going to work on your assignment on tonight? I'll write it down for you. It's 5x to the fourth minus 3x plus 1 divided by 4 minus x. All right, now I can't divide by 4 minus x because using synthetic division because it's not in the correct format. The correct format would be x plus or minus something. I could write it as negative x plus 4, but that's still not in the right format, right? But we could factor out a negative 1. So I'm going to, and since this is the first time we've seen this, I'm going to actually rewrite this. This is 5x to the fourth. I'm going to fill in some 0 terms here. Plus 0x to the third plus 0x squared minus 3x plus 1. And I'm going to divide it by, instead of 4 minus x, I'm going to divide it by x minus 4 with a negative 1 out in front. That is the same thing as dividing by 4 minus x, isn't it? And I can accomplish synthetic division to do this part of it, bless you. And when I get done with that, then I'll come back and I'll use just my brain to divide this negative 1, okay? So we're gonna have to divide them both, but in 2 separate parts. Question? So if I factor a negative, I gotta factor it out of both things here. So that's why it's x minus 4. We good? Okay. So let's take care of this part of it first. So what's gonna go on my little box for the x minus 4? That's where it's going to be the positive 4. You were just thinking a step ahead. And then my coefficients are 5, 0, 0, negative 3, and 1. All right, so we'll do our synthetic division. Oh man, it's got some big numbers. Okay. Yikes. Yeah, I want a calculator for this one. Thank you. What is it again? And then so 1269 for the remainder. Yeah. So that's my answer, but I have only divided so far by the x minus 4. We have not divided by the negative 1 yet. I gotta check something real quick. Yeah. So how am I gonna accomplish now also dividing by the negative 1? Well, we'll just divide each of these things by negative 1, which is just gonna flip all our signs. So that's gonna get me negative 5. And let's just go ahead and put the x's on it. That would be negative 5x to the third minus 20x squared minus 80x minus 317. And then our remainder goes over the thing we were dividing by. So plus, and now it's a negative 1269 over, and what did we divide it by? Well, we divided by all of this, but I'm going to write it as it was in the original 4 minus x. Okay, so I was under the impression that you guys were aware of how to deal with this when there's a coefficient on that thing you're dividing by, but apparently you haven't seen that before today, but now we know, okay? So you've got to get it into the format where it says x plus or minus something. So that means you might have to factor something out and then remember to also divide by that at the end. We could have actually done it at the beginning, but I usually do it at the end because it usually works out better that way. Okay, the assignment that you guys did for your last class, everything on that assignment, all 12 of those problems, it was possible to check your answers. Did you guys check your answers? If you didn't, I would say that you have not completed the assignment. Let's talk about this really quickly. How could you check your answer to this? Your ultimate goal for this was to write an equation of this in factored form. There were a couple other things you had to do too, but the hard part was to write the equation in factored form. How would you check to see if your answer was correct? You would graph it in your graphing calculator. You would make sure that it looks like this. And then I would also use the your graphing calculator to plug in an X value and check a Y value. Which X, Y value pair would you be using to do that? I would probably be plugging in this 1, using my calculator and making sure that my calculator spits out that -9. And if it did, and the shape looked correct, then I would be confident that I got it right, okay? If you did not do that, I highly encourage you to go back and do that, because you want to practice not just doing the problem, but knowing whether you're right. Because on test day, if you've got that extra few minutes, you want to go back and check and see if you did those things correctly, okay? So I'm not going to give you answers to these 4. On the back side, how could you check these ones? Yeah, you'd have to put it in a calculator and look at it and make sure that that you were seeing the roots where you expected to see them. So that's pretty straightforward. For the ones that we did out of the book, I'm going to give you the answers, but I'm going to tell you that all 4 of these could easily be checked using your calculator, easily and quickly. And if you're not sure how to check these problems using your calculator, that's probably something you might want to ask a question about here. So take a moment, check over your answers to those. I'm going to come around and record who's got it, and then we're going to get into our new notes. If you didn't grab the guided notes, make sure you got those, please.